Hello everyone, I'm coming at you with yet another new video. And what I'm going to be talking about today is sort of going to be talking about domestic violence, but really kind of had some thoughts in my head about like how desensitized I think our society has become to domestic violence issues. And and this all came up for me because of all of the recent cases of celebrity domestic violence cases that we see where Floyd Mayweather just got released from jail from a domestic violence dispute. Chad Ochocinco just got arrested for a domestic violence situation. And K. Michelle, who's on Love and Hip Hop, is kind of reliving her life story in trying to come to terms with the domestic violence situation that she was in. And that's just a couple of situations that I can name off of the top of my head that I experienced in my life and that I see on my news feed, people talking about. And I think that especially in these cases when it comes to celebrities, people just do a lot of victim blaming. And in K. Michelle's case, I've seen a lot of people say that she just needs to get over her abuse. She talks about it too much. She just needs to get over it and move on. I don't know where that way of thinking comes from, because unless you've experienced domestic abuse, you can never understand the trauma, the constant trauma that you go through, the nightmares, and or at least unless you've experienced or know somebody who's experienced and you went through that with them. Because I've never had to deal with a domestic violence situation, but my father was very verbally and mentally abusive. Um, but I never had to deal with a physical domestic violence situation. But I've had friends that have gone through it, and I've had to walk with them through that. And the emotional trauma lasts for years after it happens. And talking about it helps to come to terms with what happened. And that's why it's a good thing for women that experience domestic violence to talk about it as much as possible, so that they can come to terms and they can cope with the trauma that they've been through. And I don't want to only talk about women domestic violence, because men can also be involved in domestic violence situations with their spouses too, especially in gay relationships, but also in straight relationships. Sometimes the woman is the aggressor, and she has a man who loves her and respects her and doesn't want to harm her, so he lets the woman her treat him however. But I just wanted to throw that in there, because a lot of times people say that I don't talk about men and when I talk about domestic violence. But the reason why I talk about women is because it's more common, or it's more out there, and people understand domestic violence when it comes to women more. And I probably will do a video separately just about male domestic violence, because a lot of people don't understand that, or they think that the man is weak, that's why he can't, or that's why he's involved in a situation like this. But that's not always the case. um but I think it's okay for K. Michelle to talk about what she's been going through. And I think that if people understood domestic violence and how that is just like, it's really really hard on the person that has to go through it, and it's deep, and it's bigger than someone that's never been through it can understand. And I just know, based on having to grow up in an abusive household, and you know um it just and having friends and having to, like I said, comfort them through what they were going through. um but I know the emotional impact, and I know the trauma that it had on me, even taking those steps with those people. So I can't even imagine what they were going through inside of their head. And also with the Chad Ochocinco situation, my issue is that a lot of people are finding humor in this situation. Um, this is allegedly this is what happened, and if it is what happened, then there's nothing funny about this. I mean, you can feel however you want to feel about Evelyn, the woman that he's with, but the truth of the matter is is that this is a person that's going through a traumatic experience that none of us will ever really truly understand. And she deserves to have community support her regardless of how you feel about her, because she has to go through this and she should not have to go through this alone. We don't know what she's like in her real life. We know what we see on TV. And even if it was the case, just because somebody's mean doesn't mean they deserve to get their ass beat. I mean, that's that's ridiculous. But anyways, and with the Floyd Mayweather situation, I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So all I hear about all day is Floyd this, Floyd that, Floyd this, Floyd, 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 Floyd. And so I'm used to people defending his domestic violence charges and his alleged domestic violence situation, because people love him because he wins a lot, and they take pride in that, and that's why they love that situation. It really it breaks your heart, because to see people defend someone who potentially did something terrible, horrible, because they talked about how the kids were there, and um, because they win some boxing match is ridiculous. And to blame this woman and say that, oh well, what did she do, or she must have did something that provoked him into hitting her or whatever. That's not how we should be thinking. And we should be protecting the victim and making sure that she's confident, making sure that she's okay, and making sure that she has the support that she needs, especially Black women in the Black community. These excuses that we make for people that don't deserve to have excuses made for them is pretty ridiculous. And we have to stop doing this, because the more desensitized that we come to this about these issues, the more women that are going to be afraid to come out of a situation that they're in. There are women who are in domestic violence situations where every day is a nightmare for them. They can't escape, they can't get out. Every day they're being tortured, their children are being tortured. And this society that we live in right now, where we try to make excuses for these people that are doing this, is not going to be a safe place for them to come out and try to get out of the situation that they're in. They're not going to want to seek out help, because they think that they're going to be judged. And that's really bad. We have to start doing a better job of supporting the victim rather than blaming the victim, or trying to figure out what they could have done to possibly get themselves in the situation that they're in. Because that's what the abuser always says. That's how the abuser thinks. That's what he tells the women, that if you wouldn't have left your shoes at the door, then I would have beat your ass. I mean, that's the type of thinking that the abuser has, and then for us as a society to perpetrate that same way of thinking, it does nothing to help anyone. All it does is makes more victims and more dead women and more dead children, because a lot of times when these guys decide that they want to flip out, they take everyone with them. And we just had a situation like that like a year ago here, where a man just went on a killing spree over a domestic violence situation, and we lost, I believe it was 7 lives in the span of a couple of hours. So that's all that I really wanted to talk about. I just been seeing a lot of stuff lately about that dealing with domestic violence, and I've seen people's reaction to it, and it's really kind of heartbreaking to see so many people um, not understanding or not grasping the severity of what domestic violence does to a person, or how important it is to stand up and support and love and treat these women um, like they should be treated. Like their horrible spouse that they're with never, treated them. And that they know that this world is safe and we're here for them, and they can come out and say, what they've been going through, and they can get out of the situation that they're in, and we'll take care of them and we won't judge them. And that's all that I had to say. Thanks for watching yet another video today, YouTube. All right. Thanks. Bye.